Hello and welcome back to my channel. For today's card I am using several different die sets from Fawn. So I have Strawberry Patch, I have Stitched Mug Frame, as well as the outside in stitched mug. Also Lovely Latte, I Scream You Scream, and then Woodland Critter Huggers. And for this last die set I only used the heart in this. You'll see that in a little bit. For my strawberries, I wanted them to look like chocolate dipped strawberries, so I have this little back piece that goes behind the strawberries to color in the seeds. And I have this little drip die from the I Scream You Scream set, and I have used these together to create a chocolate drip for the top of my strawberry. As usual, I'm using alcohol markers to color my images. I don't really branch out from that too much. I have a hard time with other mediums. Anyway, for the strawberry, because I wasn't sure where the chocolate was going to lay on it, I mean, I have it so I can lay it over it, but it's more of a, I have to remember where it was instead of it just being up there. I kind of struggled with the shadows a little bit. Also, I wasn't sure my exact placement for each of the items for this card. I just knew the items I wanted to include. So because of this, I just did some very generic shading on this strawberry. Moving on to the chocolate, I struggled with this, and it's funny because every single time I color chocolate, I'm like, it can't be that difficult. I've done it before, and then every single time I struggle. So I have 5 different colors here, and I think the E25 and 27, they're getting a little bit dried out, and I don't have refills for them, and I actually think I need a replacement for one of them. It left a really weird texture, and that made it more difficult for me, but I tried to keep the shadows really heavy on one side and then pretty minimal on the other, just to give the illusion that it was more of a rounded shape. And I know I don't show each individual color as I'm coloring, but I started with the lightest color and then I mapped out my shadows with my second to the darkest color. And then I kind of worked back from there, and then I added in my deepest shadows after, and then I blended it all back out with my lightest E marker, but that was a lot to do with the fact that several of my markers were drying out, so it looked a little scratchy. I was just trying to even the whole thing out. But as you can see, I went back in a couple times trying to give it more of a strawberry shape, I guess. Yeah, I struggled. This was not as hard as some of the other chocolate I do later, though. So for my greens, I have these exact same greens for both the strawberry stem and leaves, I should say, as well as the little cherry stem. Now, for the cherry stem, because it is so thin, I did not add the darkest green. I just left it to the lightest in the mid-tone. Now here is the heart from the Woodland Critter Huggers die set. I've cut out several of these to be my chocolates. I wanted the chocolate to look a little bit different than the chocolate that was on the strawberries, so I have brought in E21, which is an even lighter color than I used in my chocolate strawberries. I also omitted the very darkest color from the strawberries. That way this did not get as dark. I tried to make these look like the little heart chocolates that have the slight indentation in the center. Since this has the stitching line, I felt like it would look weird if I just left it plain. I don't know. It was really difficult to color both light colors and dark colors between the stitch line and the outside edge. I fumbled my way through this one, honestly. In the end, I think it looks okay, but I did have to add some stuff to it. Moving on, I have some marshmallows, and I'm going to color those using RV00, RV10, and the colorless blender. To start with, I took my lightest marker, which was the RV00, and added a little bit of color to the outside edges, and then I blended it out with the 0 marker and went back in with the darkest one deep in the shadows, and then I quickly colored over it with the lightest one. I just wanted a very pale pink marshmallow. And for my little whipped cream dollops or whatever it is, I used both E40 and E41. I have 3 of these, and the top 2, or what would be in the front of my cup, I did E40 on the background, and then the back one was E41. Moving right along to more chocolate. This I have cut out from the mug, the exact same mug that I'm going to use for this card. And then I have again used the Ice Cream You Scream little drip die to cut across the top of it. I actually had to do this in 2 parts. It turned out pretty well though. But the coloring got me again. This would have probably also been helpful for me to look at a picture of what a chocolate drip on a mug looks like as far as the shadows and highlights. I didn't do that, so this was a struggle. I do have not a fix for it exactly, but this isn't going to just be plain. So at some point I just accepted the fact that it wasn't going to be perfect, and I was just going to continue on with my card. For some reason, at the end of this, when I looked at it, it reminded me of leather, and I'm thinking part of that is due to the scratchiness of a couple of the markers that I have. Either way, that was not the look I was going for. Moving on to the mug, I'm not going to color the handle of this one because I have a different idea for this, so I'm just sticking to creating my shadows on the left and right side of the mug. And I'm just using a flicking motion to kind of keep the lines not super thick at the very end where I lift my marker up. I don't know. It makes for a better blend. This did take me a little bit to blend in the darkest color with the mid-tone, but they will eventually blend. You just have to lay a lot of ink down. But the reason I color on the left and the right side is I found that it's the easiest way to give the mug a rounded look. Now I need to figure out where there would be some slight shading from where the chocolate drip is on the mug. So I just laid it over there quickly and scribbled out some with my mid-tone marker. And then I thought it looked maybe just a little bit too harsh, so I went back in with my lightest color and kind of blended it out just a little. Now here I have a little spoon and a handle. The handle is from that exact same mug. I just cut it off. I am going to color it in with this YR209 marker. This is an Ohuhu marker. The color here doesn't matter a ton. I just wanted something where when I use my gold embossing powder, if there's any bare paper showing through, it won't be as noticeable as white. Now, to cover these in gold, I have Princess Gold embossing powder and my Versamark ink pad. I'm just going to rub my images in the ink pad and then I'm going to coat them with the embossing powder. Now that all my little treats are done, I am going to take this large stitched panel from Fawn and I'm going to ink it up. I am going to use spun sugar, saltwater taffy, worn lipstick, and festive berries. And I'm just going to create a little gradient from the darkest to the lightest. Now, I started with the lightest, and the reason I did that is because I'm used to having very few brushes. For Christmas, I did actually get a full set of the Simon Says stamp brushes, but again, I'm used to just having one, so I had to share between the red and the pink before, and I started with the lightest color thinking that it would be less brush cleaning if I did that, and then found that it would be easier if I started with the red, since I do have two brushes. If you don't, it's whatever, just do the lightest to the darkest. I was just struggling because that spun sugar is such a light color. Once that's done, I am going to bring out my stamp positioner. Now this is one of the Tim Holtz stamp positioners, and it actually can be flipped over so that you can use it for the red rubber stamps. And here I have a Simon Says red rubber stamp that's called Love Is. These are one of my favorites. I love the word background stamps. They just add a lot of detail or interest to a background without being too punchy. So here I'm just lining it up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of the colors that I used for the background, and I'm actually going to ink up the different parts of the stamp with a corresponding color that matches the background. This isn't perfect by any means, but it doesn't have to be because it's going to mostly be covered. It's just to add a little bit of interest. And unfortunately, I have a hard time getting these to stamp well. And I know the Misty stamp positioner has a little foam mat in the back. And maybe if this one had it, it would work a little better. But I do tend to find that I get some amount of, I don't know, gapping in my stamped images. Like I really have to do some CPR on this. I don't really love that. But see, that whole middle section just didn't stamp. To ensure that your colors aren't so very harsh when they transition into each other, you can do a couple of different things. You can wipe off some of the ink after you ink it up in sort of a circular motion so that it's not so straight of a line, or you can go back in with your lighter color and stamp over the darker color because the oxides do lay on top of each other. It will soften it just a bit. Next up, I am going to use this Say What die set, and I am going to take the hearts from it, and I'm going to die cut from a few different colors. Now, instead of using the colored cardstock, I'm just going to use some paper that I have colored on because it'll give me an exact color match. Now for this, I have red, pink. I'm going to also cut out some white, and I'm going to heat emboss another section of paper, and it's going to be the same gold that I used for the handle of my mug as well as the spoon. Now, to coat this paper in the gold embossing powder, you could use the ink pad like we did with the spoon and the handle, but instead I decided for some reason that I would just use the embossing pen that I have. So either way works. We're just going for gold cardstock. I'm almost to where I could put my card together, and then I realized that I wanted to add some Nuvo drop. So I have this clear Nuvo drop, and I'm going to coat the chocolate drip on the strawberry as well as the cup to make it look like, you know, it's shiny chocolate. This is going to take a little while to dry though, so this had to be done before I constructed anything else. And I know this looks very opaque right now, but it does dry clear. Now, while I already have to wait on things to dry, I decided I would add a little bit of interest to my chocolates. One, to kind of hide the fact that they don't really look like chocolates to me. But two, just to add a little bit more color so not everything was so brown. So I'm just doing some little, not quite zigzags, and some with stripes. And I have a brown, a white, and a pink. And I have done this to all my little hearts. I forgot to show the white one. I'll have everything linked in the description box. But once those are all dry, I decided I would pop some things up on foam tape, mostly because my strawberries are kind of thick at this point. They've got a couple layers of paper and the Nuvo drops. So I knew I'd have to do that, which I did have to remove some of the foam tape that I put there on the back of the handle. Sorry guys, I haven't been awake that long. But I had to remove some of the foam tape so that I could stick my little strawberry behind it, because otherwise it just made it stick up weird. So this is where planning comes in handy, because if I had just started sticking these down, I would be all messed up. So just trying to figure out where exactly I want everything. And for the things that are in the top of the cup, I am going to go ahead and glue those down to the cup so that I don't have to worry about my cup being too low when I go to place everything down. I know it's hard to see in the video. I do have some things that are popped up on 2 layers of foam tape, some one, and then some are adhered flat to the background panel. Now, this was probably one of the hardest parts of putting this card together. I really didn't know what to put around the bottom, but it was here. I thought this looked fine, but then the top needed a little bit of color, which I knew it would. So I'm taking my colored hearts that I had die cut from the Say What die set, and I'm just putting them here and there on my chocolate, making them look like little sprinkles. And then for the finishing touch, a little cherry on top. I really felt like that needed to be up there to kind of balance out the other side with the spoon and also add red to the top. After that, my card is complete. Thank you all so much for watching. I will be back with another video soon. Bye!